When you were there, who were the leaders backstage and what made them the leaders? Either officially or unofficially, the leaders.
There was no leaders, man. It was like factions, man. You'd have like 3 guys in one corner, 4 in another, and like people would just be spread out all over the place in the lot in the back. There was no, I would say, no locker room leaders, to be honest.
How organized was it backstage?
Not.
How would you give an example?
They'd put up a run sheet at the time that the show was supposed to start, and then as the show would progress, they'd change match from like a 3-way to a tag team, and it would just change like on the fly within moments of you going into the ring. It was like that.
When you first proposed doing the Rise and Fall of Pro Wrestling eKlipse DVD, I was really opposed to it, only because like I know how hardcore of an ECW fan you are, and I'm the same way, and it kind of, well, not kind of, it really upsets me when people make the comparison of Pro Wrestling eKlipse to ECW, because that would mean by default it would make Marvel Paul Heyman, and it's legitimately a slap in the face to make that comparison. As a person, I have nothing against Martin. I think Martin has a lot of problems that he needs to sort out, but professionally, I have no respect for him whatsoever.
eKlipse was an idea that me and Martin came up with a couple years ago. He had stopped running NFW shows, which is kind of a little backyard thing that he was running with Joe Bob years ago.
The backstage leaders will be Luis Matos and Martin.
Martin lived out here, Dirk lived out here, Joe Bob lived out here, and so they did a lot of promoting for us. They did a great job. Whenever I was out here, and for a little while I was even staying out here, you know, we went out and we kicked ass with promoting, and every time we did, you could see the results by, like, you know, the growing crowds and whatnot. As far as like promotions is concerned, man, I mean, I think it was kind of a mess. Most of it was from word of mouth or from the internet. And we had a loyal fan base, but it really, I don't think it was as big as anybody really wanted it to be. There were weeks when it was just like, wow, you could see this thing growing, and then it just kind of died down, and you know, it'd be the normal 30, 40 people out there that came every week anyway.
The leadership in PWE was pretty much like Epic, Simon, and then Lewis, because there wasn't much going on with Martin.
Early in PWE's existence, who were the first couple guys that kind of tried to drive the train?
Say Luis Matos. I know he was a flag bearer for the company. Martin Marvel was probably the biggest supporter. I mean, it was his company, but he was probably the biggest supporter of the company. He really believed in it. As much as he and I disagreed on a lot of things, you know, I can't take away from his passion about the company.
Okay. Why don't we bring him in? We got him right here.
Cool.
Typically, it was supposed to be originally when we started, it was me and Lewis had come to the agreement that I was gonna, you know, it was my show. I did all the legwork. I got Lewis in. I brought Lewis in because he was a really close friend of mine, and I was like, you know, I could use some help, this, that, and the other. When George was around, George did help out. We did butt heads a lot towards the end because I had some decisions that I felt were going to make the company better. And I won't take away from what George's intentions were good for what he felt the boys deserved. And I don't think the boys didn't deserve anything less, but my intentions were, and I think I heard him say when I walked in, my passion for the company was I wanted the company to grow. And I was trying to make decisions that I felt would make the company grow, while George was, like I said, in good intentions, was looking out for the boys.
A lot of people bash on Martin. I don't have a problem really with Martin. It's just, he just didn't promote. You know, you can't run weekly shows and not go out and promote. You got to promote every week. You know, I mean, it's different if you're running bi-weekly or bi-monthly. You can probably get away with lack of promotion, but if you're doing a weekly show, you got to get out there on your ass and promote. You got to pass out flyers.
He was lazy. He gets credit for a lot of things that other people took care of. I'm very opinionated in wrestling, and wrestling is what I do. Like, wrestling is me. Like, it defines who I am. So I was always throwing out ideas and everything. And again, I'm not one to suck my own dick, but like the Bloodbath idea was mine. The feud of O2 was mine. My feud of Bobby was my idea. Actually, a lot of the stuff that went on was my idea. Everything I did at eKlipse was me. Like, And I guess, I don't know if a lot of people are going to frown upon the fact to let the inmates run the asylum, but I like to think that I made a lot of waves at eKlipse. And this will open up the door for me to do vintage wrestling and ACW and now ASW. But one of the things that was wrong with eKlipse was Martin. Martin didn't know how to take the helm, and ultimately he let a lot of people dip their hands into it. And it's not necessarily like people are going to point the finger at MSL and Sean Davis and all the Believe talent that came in, but it's like it wasn't just that, but also it wasn't not them. You know, it was them and it wasn't them. It was a lot of things that Martin just didn't know how to put his foot down, letting a lot of the talent do things that just didn't make sense. He just became lazy. He would just show up and take the walkie-talkie, and that's it, and things would be in shambles.
You know, Lewis was a good leader. You know, he had a good head on his shoulders. Martin had some pretty good ideas. And I mean, they worked well together, but at some point in time, I guess Martin had got jealous of Luis Matos, or vice versa. I don't know how that relationship ended up crashing.
It just was it was more or less misunderstandings, miscommunications a lot. When it comes to who was running things, it was supposed to be really me and Lewis, although sometimes that weight would shift more on the shoulders of one or the other. Just depending on that.
Simon was very influential in helping a lot of our guys get better when it came to mic work and work ethic. Ethic was definitely a leader amongst the younger guys, especially in the earlier days. But like I said, if you were going to pinpoint one person who was the locker room leader, I would go with Leon Scott 100%. Dirk put, 230% into the promotion from day one. I'm just saying, these guys that have complained and cried about this and made me into this bad guy, is the same guys that caused so much drama that we could barely function on Friday night sometimes. Sugar Storm literally almost got us shut down by Joe Bob.
No matter who was involved, when the Belief guys and Sean Davis came in, it was still kind of that, I'm the guy, I would flyer, I would drive Martin around when he didn't have a car, I would promote the hell out of it. I would show up early, clean up the arena, set up the chairs. Whenever we needed the curtain, I went out to Lowe's and bought the materials to make the new curtain.
Lewis's problem was that he was really passive-aggressive. All the BS that trickled down the top of the ladder from Martin trickled down onto Lewis. And instead of Lewis either saying yes or saying no, he would just say whatever. And it got to a point where Epic was actually running the locker room, and that's when the shows ran most smoothly, was because Epic picked up the slack on behalf of Martin and Lewis. But I love Lewis to death. Lewis got a lot of... Again, I'm trying not to curse as much because trying to keep it PG so everyone can watch this thing. But Lewis got a lot of heat for stuff he shouldn't have gotten heat about. Martin should have taken responsibility. Martin took credit for the good things and passed the blame for the bad things onto Lewis.
Everybody wanted to take responsibility for the show, but when it came time to pay the boys, nobody really wanted to take any responsibility for that. Mm-hmm. Lewis was the one that I know on one show at least did take responsibility, and I got paid. It wasn't a lot, but I got paid, and the whole thing with pay, and this is what I told both Lewis and Martin, look, yeah, I definitely want to be paid for my time, but, as long as they know there's going to be a payoff at the end, fine, I'm cool about it. I'm not out to try to kill a company, by asking for a high price. Mm-hmm. I just want to make sure that, we're appreciated for what we do.